Now, it is going to be Faceless facing off against Geek Fam. And, well, they left our door open as well. So that should be fixed in just a second, I'm sure. Thank you so much, Grant, the hero. But after that lovely intro, Blaze, how are you
Yeah,
doing?
this is professional Kiev major qualifiers. This is the big bucks here, $3 million tournament in which two members of the SEA community, or at least 10 members of a very large pool of 50, will be making their way out to the Kiev major. So it's very important that we give this the astute observation it deserves. And let's just start this off again talking about Faceless versus Geek Fam here. And just forgetting whatever happened in the past 60 seconds. We've got Alchemist and Ogre as the opening here. So the Ogre strat, some may say. Mostly just going to be allowing the Ogre to bully his way in and give the Alch a good start. Jabs, really just focusing on the farm intensivity here and kind of letting the team kind of build their reinforcements around him. That should be fun. Beyond that, yeah, Juggernaut Dazzle going to be Geek Fam's opener. It looks like they're going to be going for a very push-intensive strat. Slaughter is not going to be an option for them, so I'm expecting they'll probably start grabbing up offlaners like candy. I mean, you got Centaur, you got Slaughter, you got Timbersaw, you got Magnus, all taken out of the pool. And with that in mind, you definitely have to prioritize an offlaner here. Probably a Darkseer, most likely, but they actually go for the Silencer, at least for now.
Yeah, and the Silencer pick, obviously a great combo breaker, but I think the big thing too is it gives you that capabilities to go in for like a strong initiation, and then after the fact, followed up with the global. You find that kill on the Alchemist, make sure he doesn't get his ulti off. Granted, once you get like the Octarine point, it's almost over at that point anyways, because you're going to end up running into a spot where like he is going to be able to constantly have his ulti up anyways. But yeah, it's a nice pick there. Does this sort of, to you at least, signal that they're going to be playing this in a core role for the Silencer, since they would end up not having any stuns out of their first three picks? Oh my god, they're doing
Oh,
it!
buddy.
All right, so Faceless, I'm assuming that they figured it was going to be a Meepo pick with the Wyvern,
Yeah,
right?
they already prefaced it, really. The Winter Wyvern is one of the best counters to Meepo in the game, and they don't care. They're still going for it. They got the Dazzle as well. Dazzle is one of the better supports to back up Meepo. I think Ancient Apparition's Chilling Touch and Dazzle's Shadow Wave both synergize very heavily with the hero, and the, of course, Shallow Grave doesn't hurt at all either. So I'm curious if the Healing Ward, if they consider that a pretty heavy synergy. I'd rather have a follow-through hero. I used to see a lot of Meepo Murana from teams like Digital Chaos, where you could use the Earthbind to set up some really good disables like the Arrow. So we'll see exactly how they want to follow through with it as they look for their offlaner. But at least for now, I think that, yeah, they've pretty much planned this pretty early on. They're very confident in this matchup, and so confident that they don't even care that there's a Winter Wyvern and another counter pick incoming.
Yeah. And in your eyes, is it you go for something like, all right, here's whenever I talk about Meepo, I always think about like AOE control and then single target high damage to be able to burst through one of them. Do you in your it's sort of a little bit not quite the same because there's a dazzle in the game. So if they do go for that like super single target focused, you can get the grave off and maybe even make a poof away or TP boots depending upon what's going
I mean,
on.
I'd just go Axe here,
You
honestly.
think so?
Like, that's so obvious to me, actually. I don't know why it's taking them so long to think about it. Like, you're up against Shallow Grave, you need to kill a Shallow Grave target. There's one hero in the game that can do that, and he's great at AoE control against Meepo and doing some good pure damage AoE, and they don't decide to opt for it. They instead go for the Nyx Assassin. So it's very interesting, because I do think the Axe could have done a lot of work, but he might have had a tough time laning. Ice, the way Dare likes to play is very in your face. He loves to go behind enemy lines. He loves to get involved. And the Axe actually struggles with that for the first couple of levels because everybody's used to, the Axe just running at you with his passive on, and he's got a certain amount of HP regen to work with. And if you can just keep your distance and poke him down with a good support, like the Dazzle, and do a good Shadow Wave or two, he'll actually have a tough laning stage, and he has to kind of make up for it via the jungle. The Nyx Assassin isn't in such a boat. He's able to go in early on with Poor Man's Shield and Mango and able to sustain his lane, to be involved very directly, and he does offer a lot of control. Up to 2 stuns, obviously, against the Meepo here is going to be quite effective. That being said, I would still have to say that they are going to be in trouble if this Meepo gets out of control. I mean, only one hero to deal with it. Executed and played very well.
I think that Faceless can still just counter him with one hero alone, but they'd much rather pick up a good carry that can deal with him like a Sven.
All right. We'll see if that's what they decide to go for. They ban out the
Hmm.
Clinks for the moment. All right. High damage hero, talking about single target, hard to deal with. I mean, is it all about the Meepo though in
I
this
mean,
game? Is it always all about the Meepo, or like you got a Juggernaut here as well? Silencer scales well into the late game
yeah,
also.
but you don't really need to take those too far into consideration draft-wise. Once you know the silencers there, obviously you don't want to pick heroes that with big channeled abilities or heavy dependence on their spells. But you can't. When the Meepo is on the field, the draft becomes about them. The game doesn't necessarily become about the Meepo. You don't have to constantly be like, oh, is Meepo farming? Is Meepo farming? Do something about it. You just have to, when it comes to the draft, you have to make every pick count so that you have the tools to deal with him when he's at his weakest and when he's at his strongest.
Well, you know they banned out the axe wisely there by Faceless. Are you you a little bit surprised at all
Well,
that?
I mean, once you pick up the Nyx, you're not picking up the axe for
Yeah.
sure. I think they made their decision, and now that we'll see if it was the right one. Like I said, I think the drawback of the axe is that he would have had a bad landing stage, but I still think that because a grave is such a powerful spell, that axe would have been the pick that they probably needed instead. Well, obviously, Faceless is one of the best, if not the best team in the Southeast Asian region. So if Nuts thinks that they want to go Nyx over Axe, then I'll trust him with that. That being said,
Oh,
they will follow up with a last pick gyrocopter here for their safe lane.
wow. Well, we've done it. I think that this is the thing. If you are going to go in for a Meepo pick and Faceless have an idea that's going on, everything else after that's going to look a little bit different. And Gyrocopter here that we haven't seen a whole lot. We saw some in the open qualifiers for NA. There's the patented QO Gyrocopter Aghanim Scepter build, which I think a lot of people have been talking about as sort of a unique way to look at it. Is that the way that you play him nowadays, or does that not really matter? Like, what's the reason for this Gyro pick here?
I think I would just say he brings a lot to the table what we were looking for. He's going to be able to bring in a lot of good AoE damage. He's going to be able to get some push momentum to give space for Alchemist. I think that late game they actually have a lot of potential, and I think they're actually going to look to drag this one out. The one thing is Meepo, everybody likes to talk about how strong Meepo is when he gets 6-slotted. But what happens after Meepo gets 6-slotted? This hero hits level 25 faster than any other hero, I would say, in the game. He gets 6-slotted extremely quickly, especially if like half those items are Dragon Lances.
Yeah.
And then his progression is pretty limited from there. You'll see Abed go for like Ethereal Blades, a Diffusal 2s, Hexes, stuff like that, but and obviously the Heart and Butterflies and things of that nature. But when it comes down to it, this hero still has a real like finite trajectory. Once he gets these 6 slots, he has to end the game or he is only getting weaker. So if you look at this lineup, this is a lineup that can draw out the game with abilities like Flak Cannon, Acid Spray, and then and the Splinter Blast as well. And then what they can do is make it so that when it goes past like 45 minutes, feel extremely confident against this hero pick because Gyrocopter can get a lot of attack damage via Flak Cannon built up. I think you even go for the Flak Cannon talent in this case over Homing Missile.
Yeah.
And then you're also able to get the Aghanim Scepter from the Alchemist over the Gyrocopter, which is probably the best way to get that Side Gunner. Like, obviously, buying it yourself is a unique build because he really benefits from the stat pool that it offers, but if you can just have an Alchemist who already is farming that extremely efficiently, just hand it over, and then have 6 other item slots to work with, you can make your attack damage absolutely insane. So, have pretty high expectations here. The Omnight last pick is going to be changing the scope of things a little bit, as it does mean that they're going to have to worry about that Guardian Angel quite a bit, and they don't obviously have a good Purge answer. I think Helm the Dominator for Gyrocopter will be a pretty good start, because you can get the Satyr Trickster and the Purge creep. And then from there, you just kind of try to make sure that Geek Fam don't build up too much momentum.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, getting ready to hop into this game as Geek Fam are going to be putting all of their hopes and dreams on the Meepo this time around of Raji, as a matter of fact. And, you know, I got to say that when I'm thinking about this game, you talk about like all of the Aghanim Scepters that you can throw out there are from the Alchemist. I also was thinking about the Nyx Assassin, Spiked Carapace being a really nice answer to Meepos in general, where you get a big poof combo that comes out, you throw out Spiked Carapace, and then get a counter initiation play with an Impale. It's going to be hard to deal with in some ways if Nyx is able to get that mobility. And Ace is certainly a player that has just like a natural affinity with this hero. I feel like his Nyx play is just it's some of the best that I've seen in a while.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, he was one of the first players to start buying double mango on the hero, actually, just being very confident in the natural HP regen that you can build up. In this case, we've seen that progress towards the single mango plus poor mid shield, but I do think that he's a player that it fits very well with his playstyle. He generates a lot of tempo with it, and it definitely is in his wheelhouse in terms of like ways he loves to make space. He loves to kind of just be a menace, and the Nyx Assassin accomplishes that quite drastically. It's also going to be very problematic for Crimson, because while the Omni Knight wants to build up some decent items, at least your Arcane Boots and maybe some ways to extend his cast range like Blink Dagger or Ether, the Dazzle is going to be just bare bones, because he's going to have to buy so many Sentry Wards to deal with this Vendetta and the aggressive play that's going to come in from Ice.
Well, this is going to be a interesting laning setup as well. We had the Meepo that is sitting over in the wait, they're doing a dual mid Teehee is okay.
It's just zoning. Yeah, this is just to give momentum to the Meepo. Early on, you're going to expect Grievel's Greed from the Alchemist, because he's going to get the bounty rune value out of it. So what you can do is kind of give an early good start to Rodgi. The first few levels here, Meepo's base damage is still pretty low, so he gets a Quelling Blade, he gets everything he can to amp it up as much as possible, but just getting a little bit extra harassment from Silencer always helps.
Alright, fair enough. I was thinking that they're going to try and run a dual lane up in the top with the Silencer and the Omni, but...
I think he might find his way up there, we'll see, but it really comes down to how much pressure you're under. Most of the time, Bella's just going to be purely on the defense no matter what, even if the Silencer comes to help him out. So for now, it looks like Teehee will be doing stacking and zoning for the mid.
And meanwhile, up here to the top, Velo trying to get whatever farm he can against Nuts and Black on his Gyrocopter, and it feels like that lane, Omni Knight probably shouldn't die. Like, unless he's pretty heavily overextended. Gyrocopter's quick, but with Repel always available, it seems like they'd be hard-pressed to find a kill.
We're actually going to be seeing XY rotate down bottom here. Obviously, we haven't talked about it much, but he plays Ogre like any game that he can, so he's very experienced in his early rotations and how involved he needs to be. Has the Orb of Venom, has that Ignite, but realizes he's not going to find many opportunities right now on mid, so he ends up just kind of making his way down bottom and giving a little bit more space for Daryl.
Okay. Well, laning configuration and everything else starting to become a little bit more apparent, and Ice is going to head off, pick up the bounty rune. 2-minute mark, easy peasy for him, and of course Meepo would have loved to take that one, but not going to be able to get there in time. So a little bit of space for T here in the mid lane to farm up.
Yeah, unfortunately Nuts missed a connection for his pulls, so the Satyrs are not killing off this Dire Creep Wave right now, and Bella's going to be able to get a little bit more experience here pulling the wave back. So he's already at level 3, he's got Boots TP, he's now unkillable because all he has to do is repel TP away if he's in a really rough spot. And
Black.
he will be taking some rough trades though, and just overall, he's still just going to be kind of sitting here soaking and having an alright time on the offlane.
I mean, yeah, he just uses a salve, and Black now is, I mean, sitting with Tangos, but if Velo gets a couple more levels here, this could get and turn into a pretty rough situation. They were trying to get the pull off, doesn't quite connect, and not able to salvage that, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Black's going to lose farm, and he's not going to be killed off by the Omni. It's just going to be that they can't zone him out effectively. He still has a million Tangos to work with. Like, he can branch 2 of those if he really needed to. So it's more that Velo is getting too much out of this lane than Black getting too little.
Okay. Taking multiple points now. Rocket Barrage, in case he wants to end up using it. I was thinking it might be an interesting build if he was going for a homing
actually
missile.
Be a kill on the Ogre here. They don't have any Earthbind though, so they're just going to have to go with the Geostrikes to try to slow him down.
Now, Poof up at level 2, trying to see if they can get that slow. Do have Poison Touch again in a little while, but XY with the Bloodlust. His movement speed quite swift. And
to the shrine!
Poof wants to get there. Need a couple more hits. He doesn't quite connect to the Poof, and he is going to get to the shrine. So, Raji, a very quick movement. This is sort of like almost a roaming-ish Meepo with Teehee taking over mid at this point in a certain way.
I've actually had a couple of drafts that are designed around this where you actually go for role shifts after the first few minutes of the laning phase, and Silencer actually is one of the better heroes for it. At level 1, he can play like a support, he can zone like a support, but then giving him farm is actually extremely valuable as well. So what he can do is essentially start off as a 5 position, transition into a 2, and then the Meepo can just jungle. With Iron Talon and 2 Meepos, you can clear out jungle camp so rapidly. So we're actually seeing them kind of have their cake and eat it too. Teehee gets to play a mid-silencer after pretty much being the poor man for the team for just a few minutes. I actually think that this is going to be able to maximize their overall team economy, and it's probably the most efficient way they can accomplish this. It's not going to be as effective when the Knicks hit 6 because Rodgi can't be farming at nearly as low of an HP value.
Right.
But at least for now, it's actually really effective.
So what you're saying is jungle Meepo. That's basically what I'm hearing here, right?
Well, I mean, I know that we probably don't see as much Meepo at like the variable MMR levels, but like in some of the higher level games that I've been spectating, you'll often see Meepo jungle by default. Like he's just so fast at it. Like he'll get a few levels, he'll get a little bit of farm to start off, but you really only need talent and maybe treads, and you're feeling really good about your progression.
Well, Velo not feeling very good himself, ends up going for the first blood, ended up using that repel, but not opting to go for the TP away, and he pays the price for it. So Gyrocopter drawing first blood, certainly a good for him. I was curious about it. Like Teehee, normally the mid laner for this team. I was wondering if it was a role swap or what was going on, but they are just going to be able to zone out XY for the moment, and particularly I think this works against an Alk, like a hero that wants to be able to farm and doesn't always do the best at pressuring the lane. So quite a cool way to look at it, and it's come to the tune now of the Meepo just barely being behind CS, and they run into Nuts as well as Jabs. Are going to try and back away again, in some trouble, and they drop down. It's going to be a kill with the call down used.
For sure. So it's a nice little pickup there, but I mean, this Meepo is not the only hero in the game. Like, obviously getting the second kill involved for Faceless is big, but it's not as nearly as significant as it would be if this was like the hardcore Meepo that was focused on just farming through mid. I feel like they have to kind of reevaluate his priority in terms of targeting, focusing, and trying to go for kills against him, because I actually feel like this is kind of a 4-core lineup from Geek fam. The Omni-Knight's kind of half a core by default already, but like, the Silencer and Meepo are building themselves up at about an equal level.
Oh, and Sionix super low. Can he quite find it? Ice! What? All right. No Sentry Ward there.
Very, very nice movement there. Ice just tries to juke him. He just thinks, okay, well, he's got...
obviously, it's just a mind game, right? Like, Juggernaut, by default, Nixes would run north. They would run to safety. They would run to their tower. So Ice tries to do the unpredictable thing, runs through the tree line, and that's where the Juggernaut finds him. Very nicely done.
All right, a couple of kills that probably shouldn't happen in both of the off lanes, and it ends up coming to the tune of, well, right now, Faceless a little bit ahead, but Geekfam's over the head in experience, and like you're talking about, they are going to have this sort of economic advantage. Is that enough to sort of deal with this Alchemist, though? Because I still do feel like late game, you've talked about the Aghanim Scepter, you've talked about how comfortable they are going into the later stages of the Gyrocopter as well. Is it something to be concerned about?
I mean, I feel like Faceless have so many great stall tactics to work with here as they progress towards Radiance Manta, and of course they're going to have Acid Spray, Splinter Blast, and Call Down, all to clear out waves. I feel like it's actually going to be Geek fam that are struggling to find abilities to siege. There's actually going to be another spin play down bottom. Doesn't actually get him this time. He Omni Slashed with the Sentry Ward in play so that he could get all this damage against the Vendetta, but just needed a little bit more damage on his spin.
And I say Sice very much thinking about going in on Sionix here. If there was a player to do it at sub 100 HP, it is Ice for sure. But won't be able to find him. Healing Ward dropped. And he still might want to try and get something out of this.
Yeah, not much to be accomplished right now, I don't think. I mean, yeah, he's just going to have to TP back. There's really no way that you can be at that low of HP and still be aggressive. And they even have a Radiant Vision, so they know that he's playing extremely passive. He's actually going to wait out the Shrine. 15 seconds here, and then he's going to pick up the Shrine alongside the Wyvern. She's got the Cold Embrace for him as well, if that seems to be appropriate. But as far as the other early progression here, Meepo is up to 64 last hits. That does translate to only 3,600 net worth with the death, as well as the fact that jungle creeps are just lower gold density.
Moving in now, Black might be in trouble. Can they get the Earthbind there? It's not quite in range, but XY, behind enemy lines, they're going to take down this tower and then most likely see if they can take him out, because he does have a TP, but only 27 mana. And yeah, this is going to be a little bit sad for poor old XY.
Yeah, but they do have reinforcements coming in. They can do TP to the tower at shortest duration.
Assassin?
Nyx TP to the Shrine is able to Vendetta in to play. So yeah, they actually have a really good flank setup. and I think they have an opportunity here.
Yeah, they're backing out. All right, good decision by Geek Fam to not try and get in the area, and they will be able to take down one silencer to fall. He did have global up, but obviously no way out with just a couple right clicks finishing him off.
Yeah. So they had a 3-man shrine party on the bottom shrine, and then were able to TP the Nyx to immediately get back into play. So didn't have nearly the downtime that they would have otherwise by coordinating that. And the Alchemist got to farm some H-hits in the meantime. So it's very, very efficient movement here. Very strong team play coming in from Faceless at this stage, and obviously they're up 3-1, so they can't complain.
Yeah. You can see also just how high that Alchemist network is going to continue to skyrocket, as currently topping the leaderboard. No great surprise. How do you feel like the matchup of just the Meepo and the Alk ends up working out normally, and then also how it's going to end up looking like in the context of having an extra core for Geek Fam? Like, are they going to be able to try and shut him down, or do you just let this guy farm?
So it's interesting because both heroes are really good at shoving out lanes and to kind of pushing the creep equilibrium towards the other side of the map. That's one of the things that playing with Meepo becomes so frustrating, is because he's taking a lot of experience away, because each Meepo gets their own share, and he's very frequently pushing out these lanes so that your supports can't find the safe farm. But Alchemist does it back the other way. It's a very push and pull scenario where the Radiant Manta style is always going to be putting that pressure back out the other way. So most of the time, yeah, there's going to be kind of a lot of back and forth with the creep waves. Directly, I mean, there's some good continuous damage on the Meepo, but you want hard burst damage in fights. You want to be able to nuke down a single Meepo or all the Meepos all at once with a lot of damage. So while he'll enhance the damage received via acid spray, and the Wyvern and the Gyrocopter can do still a lot of damage to the Meepo, he himself is not going to be doing too much directly. The biggest thing he has really going for him is the concoction effect.
Okay. It's also worth noting we're seeing a different Meepo build than we've had in the recent past. He's actually gone for the 2 Wraith Bands, and now the E-Blade is going to be the pickup instead of the Dragon Lance, those, like you're mentioning, popularized by Abed.
Oh, I don't think that he was the first one to really build it up, but he certainly loves it, that's for sure. That being said, I do think that the E-Blade is a very offensive build, and it shows that they actually want to end this game really quickly, which is the right call, I think. Faceless, they win this game by dragging it out. They get random little pickoffs, they push out the waves, and they just keep their towers alive. Whereas Geek Fam, they're definitely on the clock. They're saying, okay, well, we can full tempo this, and if they can just like execute really well with a couple of key global silences, they could absolutely win this game in the next 10 to 15 minutes.
All right. Ice, or excuse me, Nuts again. Ice is the Nyx assassin. He's gotten up to level 6 and getting a little bit of a lane to himself. The Splinter Blast, another huge part of being able to help deal with that Meepo, as well as the Winter's Curse. Now that having those levels, it's at least giving them the ability to fight into it, as the next Tier 1 tower is soon to be assaulted, but it's Radiant's time for Alchemist. Does this allow them to try and take fights, or is it just continuing to build up, try and keep the lanes pushed out? Like, you're not really looking for a fight ever for Faceless?
I mean, they'll take the fights where they see them. I mean, when they see a good opportunity. The problem is Global Silence always makes it pretty difficult, and now soon to be Mech and Guardian Angel also makes it very difficult. So, yeah, they just have to find the right target at the right time, and the Juggernaut going to be perfectly fine thanks to the Healing Ward. And I actually got to take back one thing that I just said about the E-Blade progression. It's not just about the damage. Yeah, 40 agility is amazing. It spreads to the Meepos very well, but it's actually mostly against the Winter Wyvern. You E-Blade the Meepo that gets Winter's Cursed, and then you don't have to worry about that incoming damage.
XY, taking some himself, is going to end up being able to walk away from that one. Still black in the area. Looks like they aren't quite going to be able to bring him down. The raindrops kept him alive after the last word. And the Winter's Cursed onto Sionix, maybe trying to set up a combo, but immediately just going to be repelled. And, well, Omni Slash now dropped onto XY. Winter Wyvern possibly in some trouble. They don't have a Winter's Curse for the next fight, so Meepo can go into whatever he wants to do. They are jumping in. A good Spike Carapace is going to keep the Nyx Assassin alive for the moment. The Impale, it's just not enough damage, though. Naturally high magic resistance. They take down the Winter Wyvern. Geek Fam are all over him.
Yeah, and now they can just break down 2 towers really quickly. Like I said, this team is really good at breaking down buildings very quickly and just putting out a lot of tempo very fast, and this draft is perfectly suited for it as well. They also didn't have to expend the Global Silence in that entire process. That's their best ability of the 5. Guardian Angel's very close second, but they didn't even have to drop either ultimate in that exchange. That's just insane.
Again, a team that probably not a lot of people would have known about unless you were following the Tier 2 SCA Dota scene, but definitely putting on a show here. They've already taken down TNC in the qualifiers, and I mean, they're well on their way to at least putting the screws to Faceless. If they end up taking this game, they are almost assuredly going to be able to make it through unless there's some really odd results that come out. But Faceless might have something to say about that. And we haven't really seen that big Winter's Curse either shutting down the Meepo. But the thing that's crazy is they haven't really been even taking those fights with the Meepo most of the time. It's
yeah,
just
no, he's mostly about the flank. He's mostly about getting in after the fight even begins. He'll be even better at that once he gets the Blink Dagger. I'm assuming he'll pick that up after the E-Blade. But at least for right now, the Juggernaut's happy at being a frontliner. He's got so much backup. He's got natural HP regen through the Helmet Dominator. He's got a nearly maxed out healing ward. And then he's got the Dazzle and the Omni Knight behind him. So it's really hard for Faceless to poke him down in this situation. They have to engage. They have to commit. And then that's when the Meepo shows up.
All right, well, 4-4. It's still relatively even in terms of net worth, but maybe that's just a testament to how good Faceless
I think the graph
and
hardly indicates anything this game. It's all going to be about structural damage that Geek Fam can do and how rapidly they can overwhelm Faceless before Faceless really get everything online.
They're going to try and run him down now. XY forced back and away while all the other lanes are pushing in pretty much at this point. They don't have Nyx Assassin in the mid, a huge part of this defense that they want to make on the Tier 1 tower. You can just see how much Faceless is fully committed to keeping this alive. It's nuts.
And meanwhile, top lane, you got two Meepos pressuring the top tier 2. Like, they're doing everything they can to hold one tower, and then the other one's just going to start falling rapidly. They really actually can't stretch themselves thin between these two positions. They have no global movement. They don't have like a Whisper, Nature's Prophet, or a Coddle allowing you to jump back and forth here.
All right, they bring in the Nyx Assassin as well. They're going to be able to jump forward, but XY kept alive for the moment. They turn it with the Winter's Curse. Raji, very low, is going to get graved at the last second, but can he survive and get out of here? So many heals leveled out down on top of him, and Raji, with the Repel, is going to be able to stay alive through it. Already XY is taken down two, though, and they're going to find a third as Meepo does eventually fall. And a great defense from Faceless, well needed.
Yeah, a lot of really good Winter's Curse, just catching out exactly what they needed. Couldn't get the Guardian Angel coming out in that fight as they needed to. And then, yeah, just finishing off the Silencer and the Dazzle on the west end. So they definitely had the right target priority there. They got a lot of good damage in, and they hold their tower in the mid. They really can't win these wars of attrition, so they, again, have to commit, and they commit effectively.
Sionix, we also saw there in the mid lane a little bit of the battle of the Helm of the Dominators. Black took over, or rather the Juggernaut took over the Catapult, and then Black took it back away from him, just trying to do everything they can. And still the Tier 1 tower is holding. So I think right now if you're Faceless, you've got to be feeling good about that. Are you at all concerned about Geek Fam here, or can you just reload, try to go again? Is it sort of like where they need to try and secure Roshan first?
Well, I think that every push is going to get a little bit harder here for Geek Fam because they're actually not prioritizing experience for anybody but the Meepo. Like, Meepo's spreading a little bit, but everybody else, you saw like 5 heroes clumped up in one lane. So they're actually not progressing that much more rapidly, and every fight really just sets them back further. So, yeah, I think that they have to start kind of making moves, and it looks like Roshan is going to be the call. Still, with Winter's Curse back up, I think the Faceless are raring to go, and we'll see if they choose to contest the pit.
Yeah, Meepo E-Blade is there, as well as the double Wraith Bands. He is actually hitting quite hard, 143 damage per. And they use the call down in the middle of them. Good stomp onto two. Is it going to be enough though? Winter's Curse ends up connected on a Velo. That is not the hero. They get the E-Blade off as well. Now the Guardian Angel comes. Can they take down Jabs? The chase is going to be there, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Black ends up getting caught there, stunned by Roach. They're on top of Jabs. They find that kill, trying to take down Ice as well. The Earthbind keeping him in place. The Global as well is just devastating. He can't quite kill up Black. He does finally find that with the Grave as well to keep him alive. Geek Fam are all over Faceless, and this is definitely going to be at least another couple of towers.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, there's not really a great opportunity to poke at Geek Fam from Faceless' perspective. They have to commit, so I'm glad they're at least going in with all guns blazing. The problem is that a full HP Omni Knight is not going to drop in that situation with that Winter's Curse, and they didn't have the follow-up stun channel long enough with the Unstable Concoction. They need to essentially triple chain stun the Omni Knight after a Winter's Curse like that, or there's no way that they win the fight. So with a global silence in the middle of it, that's impossible, and Faceless start to struggle. You're going to see them start to rush out BKBs on some of these heroes, anything to dispel this global, because it is becoming a real menace in these fights, and it's making it really easy for Geek Fam to execute. They take the fight, they take Roshan, and they give the Aegis to one of the best Aegis carries in the game in the Meepo.
You know, I gotta say, you come into this game, you take the Meepo early on in the second phase, and you're also looking at, like, into the counter pick of the Winter Wyvern. It feels like Geek Fam, they had this special little strategy plan for Faceless in a lot of ways, and if the first match that you're going to be playing of the day is going to be against the top team in the group, it makes a lot of sense. So really cool to see a bit of, I don't know if I'd say innovation necessarily, but it's something that we haven't seen a lot in competitive play at least.
And the Blink Dagger down bottom. They're going to try to go for the multi-poof here. Is it going to be an Earthbind coming in? Need one. Don't get it.
No.
So, but yeah, I think the main innovation here is the fact that Rodkey is the one playing the Meepo, the support player, and he was able to do that really cool lane swap in terms of the economic priority is what I would call it. But yeah, in this case, other than that, I think they just have a really good idea of what they wanted out of this draft, out of this game. And I mean, Faceless, like you said, they had the Wyvern in play, but their pickup was Nyx and Gyro. And I talked a lot about the Axe in the draft. I also think Underlord is actually a hero that could deal with this situation pretty well. Specifically the global back and forth that we were seeing with that top lane pressure. He can definitely move around the map a lot more effectively. I think Teehee's too far forward, personally. His global is really important here, but I mean, he does have Dazzle and the Omni behind him, so he might be confident.
Nuts. Winter's Curse is still there. They drop it on Raji. The global comes out. He's going to be able to live through this. It's already over. Yeah. God, they're so survivable.
They might just high ground.
Honestly. And Nuts again going to TP out of there.
They actually might just be able to high ground off of that. They got nothing out of this combo. And now, like, what is the Wyvern able to do? Splinter Blast once, and that's it. I actually think this is a great opportunity.
Nicely done. Omni slash down XY. Barely able to get out of that one.
Smoked it up, but it's going to be a jump here onto the Wyvern. Gets the E-Blade and poofs him up. The Cold Embrace can only stop that physical damage, and they are just going to be able to gun him down. So Wyvern's down. The high ground defense is crumbling, and Jabs isn't even at home. He's not pushing out cutting creep waves with the Radiance Manta. He needs to do that now. He's going to try to go for just one wave here, drop the Manta and BOT back to try to hold the high ground.
They got Black. They caught him in the base. He's going to end up dropping so quickly. Another combo, and they still have the Aegis as well. They dropped the Guardian Angel. That is a glyph. Maybe a little bit premature there, but might be able to find some more. The Impale. It's absolutely everybody. Standing also in this acid spray. Maybe a little bit scary, but they've still got the Aegis. I think they can just stay here, and what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's a really tough position. Winter's Curse is coming about 5 seconds. That should enable them to get at least one kill here, but they will need some follow-up after that. Good stun combos.
Oh my God,
Guardian
they're so
Angel.
survivable, but it's before the Aegis again, so he's going to be back up in just a second. You still have another combination here. Can Faceless somehow stop this? I don't know if it's going to end up happening. The stun. Ow, they end up connecting on the 3, but look at the Guardian Greaves. So survivable. Where's the grave? They needed a second. No, Raji is still fine. They're trying to do whatever they can, but they just do not have enough damage. And everybody poofs back out after the melee barracks is down. Teehee is going to fall here, and looks like Vela will as well. So they lose 2 on the way out. Okay. But a huge win there for Geek Fam nonetheless.
Yeah, it was a really good call for Geek Fam to withdraw at that moment, because that's when like the damage just started to rake in just enough. Meeple is sitting about like 35, 40% HP, and definitely could have been like killed off by a Vendetta and a stun. So they pull out at the exact time they need to. They get the melee racks. They don't only lose 2 heroes out of it. Geek Fam very happy about the current state of the game.
The thing that's crazy to me too, though, is it's the Alchemist game, and you still have net worth almost even. Experience into the favor of Geek Fam, but the game is still quite close. And what is it that Faceless need to do? Because it feels as if almost just like holding out isn't enough. Is there anything else that they can really make happen, though?
I have to reiterate that I don't think the net worth graph is very indicative of the value of either team's current position in the game. I feel that not only is it artificially increased by the Grievel's Greed of the Alchemist, but I also think that you need about like 30% more farm on Faceless in order for them to be comparable to Geek Fam, because Geek Fam's heroes are naturally just tempo oriented. They're really good at this current fighting state. You need BKB or Dispel to cancel out the silencer. You need a lot of really good damage output to deal with the Meepo. You need an offensive purge to deal with the Omni Knight. Like, there are just so many items on their shopping list to just deal with this draft as a whole. So Faceless, they're going to be looking for these big item pickups that will allow them to combat the current position, but where Diffusal Blade used to be a catch-all item against Silencer and Omni Knight, now it only does the offensive purge, and that means that they are going to have to continue to look for alternatives.
Well, BKB is going to be that alternative for the Gyrocopter, still trying to build towards it. And they're down here in the bottom lane. You can just see Faceless have no desire at all to meet this head on. Shrine is going to go down in just a second. And we also have level 20 for Meepo, so has evasion on top of everything else. God, this is such a difficult hero to bring down at this point. And, I mean, if they wanted to, they could probably play it safe and go for the next Aegis before they go for the next high ground push. Do you like that idea, or do you think they need to keep the tempo going?
I think you can definitely wait another Roche cycle. I don't think this is like a one and done. You have to go with the first Aegis. That's
right.
That's not that desperate of a position. They are going to start losing steam when Meepo hits 25, but they still got a long
Look at this
way to
play
go.
by Faceless. They're going to force out the glyph, and everybody's here. This might end up bringing a couple back.
Yeah, it's offense through defense, or vice versa, really. It's defending their top lane through being offensive in the bottom, and it's just forcing some retreat. The problem is you're not going to be able to do that when Meepo gets BOTs. So they'll do it while they still have the opportunity, but once you have heroes that can kind of bounce back and forth, it's not going to be nearly as effective at kind of spreading out the enemy and dividing and conquering them. In the meantime, though, it works out. They don't lose their top tier 2, and they might be able to get some good wards up around the Roche pit, which, as we've emphasized, is very important for the stake of this game.
Yep. We also have the Octarine Core done for the Alchemist. That was the BKB done for the Gyrocopter. That next tier of items is there for Faceless, but likewise, Meepo just picked up a Sheep Stick. He has a Sheep Stick, he has an E-Blade. Somebody is going to die quite rapidly here, and it looks like it could potentially be Black. Can he survive an initiation coming out? And likewise, can they turn it with the Nyx Assassin in the area as well?
I mean, you've got BKB and Cold Embrace, so you actually can't kill the Gyrocopter at all. So they have to have like a full 5-man. I don't think actually Geek fam are looking for pickoffs at all. They're only looking for 5-man movement and only when it suits them. So Roche is coming up soon. Both teams have that timer in their minds, and that's when you're going to see Geek fam start to control the western part of the map again.
All right. Ward placed down off to the side there. The Sheep Stick initiation. It's on to XY. That Ogre very much dead, and now everybody trying to TP away.
So there we go. Again, just like pretty much like clockwork. They knew that the Roche can be up in the next few seconds, so they just want to make sure that as soon as that is within the window of possibility, that they have control over this region. And you're just going to see them stay here.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to farm out like the nearby camps. They're going to keep pushing out the creep wave up top. There's no reason to venture too far from this area, and it's actually going to take some time, because we do see now, from our perspective, that the Roshan spawn is going to be about 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and that's obviously closer to the maximum time than the minimum, so they got a little bit of time on their hands just to hang out, but they know that this is the priority, getting this Roshan and getting back to high ground.
And Faceless still feels to be just like the rinse and repeat style of play at this stage. Going to be going back for the Shiva's Guard for the Alchemist. Anything to slow down that attack speed and just deal any amount of AoE damage. It felt to me in the last couple of fights, though, is this Winter's Curse from Winter Wyvern has not really been able to make things happen. Was this because of something that we're seeing the Meepo do himself, or what's your read on it's just like they don't have the follow-up?
Yeah, it comes down to the follow-up a lot. Also helps out if the Winter Wyvern can have the spell ranked up a little bit. You get a longer duration, so more opportunities for the Meepo to self-inflict. And then, yeah, you can really focus on the aspect of following it up with the Unstable Concoction, with the Impale, and so forth. And that can enable a kill. But right now, as it stands, it's been...
Oh my god, Global? BKB is there? All right, that's Global down.
Pretty good response from Black, actually. He's well known for it.
Raji now in some trouble, but they get the Guardian Angel off. All right, that might be able to keep him alive long enough. They throw out another stun. Omni Slash down onto XY, switching over to Jabs. Not doing enough damage there either. There's a lot of damage now going on to Black. Can he fall? The Winter's Curse trying to keep him alive. BKB had already been used, and Jabs ends up self-stunning, but another great Impale. Raji, though, the poof combo, the damage isn't going to be enough. They're trying to bring him down. He is going to fall. Sionix, unstoppable streak on the back line, but they took down both of those cores. Faceless lose the out, but they're going to end up taking the fight.
Very, very impressive display from Faceless. Going to see actually this Dazzle caught in a corner without a TP. going to delay the inevitable. In the meantime, they will pursue the Omni and should be able to run him down. Yeah, he has the repel TP.
Actually looking to try and turn this
No,
back
there's
around.
no way.
I
There's
mean,
no way.
XY might end up dropping there. He ends up falling to that last word. Velo does have TP with the repel.
Wow. They actually do get something out of it and don't actually lose anybody further, at least. So the tail end of the fight isn't too bad for Geek Fam, but I want to talk about the start of it. A very quick response from Black with the Black King bar. It's something that he's done since he played on Mouse Sports. He's always been really quick on the trigger. When he sees some oncoming disables, he's able to really turn a fight. And I think that they did that pretty immaculately. They were able to deal with the global and then say, this is our time to shine, let's push forward, and just get just enough damage on the Meepo to bring him down. Like, you could tell it was like a sliver of health lift on him and the Alchemist, and it ends up they've dropped both pretty much at the same time. But still, like, these are very close engagements, and that bodes well for Faceless as this game goes forward. The question is who still gets this next Roshan, and with global cooling down, I actually think that Geek Fam are still in a better spot. I mean, they do have a shrine where Faceless do not at the top.
Yeah, and obviously quick reinforcements. The buyback status, you do have it on both Black, Meepo, as well as Nuts himself. So if they wanted to make a quick reinforcement play, they could as well.
So you asked earlier why the Winter Curse wasn't nearly as effective as it could be. One aspect was the follow-up. The biggest reason for that is the global silence has been very effective. Teehee popping the global whenever the Winter's Curse comes out, so that it turns out that's it. It's a Winter's Curse and nothing else. Yeah. They throw out a Shadow Wave, Guardian's Grieve, and the Meepo, or whoever is inflicted, is perfectly fine. The key thing is follow-up here. If there is no follow-up in stuns, then the Winter's Curse can pretty much be waited out, and they can just pursue the fight from there.
All right. Mjolnir is going to be next up, and it looks like Geek Fam going in to take down Roshan. That was a stomp, and that might slow it down enough to get them in range. Now they're taking it too quickly. They want to move in. They want to contest. It's starting to drop low, but they do have the full contingent of the Omni, ulti, everything else. Aegis is there for Raji. He's going to be fine for the moment. Nuts trying to go in for the Winter's Curse, but they get the Atos onto XY. Impale connects onto 3. Global to follow. They don't have an answer for this one. Can they bring down Ice before that Winter's Curse comes out? Off to the side, they're able to walk away from it, and well, it does
Lotus
look like
Orb
they're
reflected
out.
Omni Slash, so they Omni Slash each other and nothing happened. Now a great Impale on the front line. Meepo dropping very low, and they're gonna pop the Aegis.
Teehee is also in trouble now too, and I don't even know if they're gonna be able to turn back around once Meepo's back up. They're on top of one, and Nyx Assassin able to just walk away. They have a stun from Jabs, another Impale to follow. They're all over this Meepo. Faceless have done it. They've taken him down a second time in just about 3 minutes, and Velo now also in trouble. He's going to try and TP out of this one, but they have enough damage to bring him down. 4 dead. Faceless pulling this one back from the jaws of defeat.
Ice has played amazingly in the past 2 fights. First, we saw just some tremendous impales in the fight that was on the mid lane, but this Roche fight, which honestly I wasn't even sure if they should have taken, because once they saw the Roche that low and they knew the Meepo would have an Aegis, they still committed, and that takes balls. But Ice in that fight is able to get the Lotus Orb on himself right when the Juggernaut Omni Slashes. They Omni Slash each other, nothing happens of it, and then he gets back in the fight and lands some of the sickest impales I've seen. Puts on a Lotus Orb again so that he can't be hexed and killed off by
TP
Meepo.
didn't spin! They got Sionix caught! He's not going to be able to get back.
No. Mid lane, though, it's going to be Rajki going forward all by himself, going to be killed off!
This could potentially be... They're going to go in for this. They break the TPs. Teehee is left completely alone. Juggernaut has to run home. Ice was stalking him the entire freaking time. They're going to at least get this lane of melee barracks, and looks like Sionix will be back before they can do any more damage. Well, maybe not. They turn towards bottom?
Yeah, they're going for bottom. They have so much going for them right now. There's no global for 19 seconds. There's no Meepo at all. And Juggernaut's only just arriving to the fight. Jumping in on Omni Knight. They do get a nice 4-staff away from the silencer, but is it going to be enough? They already got the melee racks down bottom, and they're going to get the range too.
Oh my god. I don't know if it was Raji thought that the Juggernaut was going to be back. They didn't end up transferring the information quickly enough, or whatever ended up happening. But Geek Fam were in a great position, and now Tier 4 is going down. No Meepo for 50 seconds.
They realize that there's no way that he can get back into this. He diebacks, and they are just going to finish it here and now. Juggernaut is taking a lot of Gyrocopter gets the Lotus Orb!
Oh, the Lotus Orb play over and over again. Ice, the man, but Can they end up doing anything else? Winter Wyvern is dead, and they need to be a little bit careful. Jabs possibly get too far forward, but he's got the regen. They drop down the call down. Sionix, they just want to kill off this Nyx assassin, but he blinks out. And they are going to only find a Winter Wyvern kill in return. What a sharp decline in the fortune of Geek fam.
Just some amazing team play from Faceless. Like, I was going to talk about how, if this game went another 15 minutes, that it would be kind of a smart draft to build up the gyrocopter and to play it safe and to try to just extend this game as long as possible. This was execution.
Yeah.
This wasn't the draft. This wasn't letting the clock run out. This was them going in, contesting a huge Roshan in a way that many teams would not, and just outplaying their opponents, especially, again, Ice and Nyx on the Assassin, saving the gyrocopter with a Lotus Orb, using it perfectly to prevent Hex plays and Ethereal Blade plays, countering out the Omni, breaking silences so that he can cast the spells. Like, he is just doing everything he wants with a little 4,000 gold item, and I can't believe my eyes. They're absolutely destroying this, despite the fact that this draft was designed to just melt this stage of the game.
Yeah, incredibly impressive play. I mean, we've been talking about how good Geek fam has been playing earlier. Is, well, Hex out, force staff away. Sionix thinking about going in. You still are, maybe you need to be a little bit careful about Sionix here, and well, they're chasing down after Velo. They get the E-Blade to keep him alive for the moment. Everybody very grouped up. Raji goes in, maybe in some trouble. They end up getting the ulti off in time, so that's going to keep Raji alive. They don't have a Winter's Curse. Reflecting the Atos off to the side. Ice. But Raji is dropping low now. They don't have an answer to keep him alive. 2 dead, and that is now 85 seconds with no Meepo. And I think that Faceless know they've done it.
Faceless, the undefeated, are showing why that is the case, as they are able to take out this draft in 36 minutes. This is completely unexpected. Being able to just take fight after fight, break all the momentum, stall out the game, and then take the fight to the opposition. Just amazing play. Jabs, Black, Ice. Everyone has been doing just so well in this game, and now he's out at the fountain, just waiting for them to GG out.
Great display. Gotta love to see it. And Faceless, proving why they're the top of the group. I will say, I've been really impressed with Geek fam's play throughout the game and throughout the qualifiers. I thought that they were going to be able to take it against Faceless. Give me a little bit of a rundown on, I mean, we've been talking about what our thoughts are the whole time, but anything else that you got?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, like, this is one of a drafter's worst nightmares. A 4th pick Meepo into a 5th pick Omni Knight when you already have to deal with a silencer. There are a lot of factors that go into this, and it requires a lot of certain items to address, and it honestly requires a very specific and coordinated playstyle. The shot calling in this game must have been some of the most intense that Faceless have brought to the table, because they always had the right target. There was 1 or 2 Winter's Curses in the earlier stage, around like 18 minutes, that maybe weren't ideal, and that obviously cost them a racks, but they had more than one opportunity in this game, and they were able to push on that. It was just absolutely amazing to see this in play. Faceless are showing why they are a Tier 1 SCA team.
And they've always looked better. They've always looked more talented, but it's also the shot calling, the crispness, the plays being made out. And I think that some of that also might have to do with they just got a new coach. It's winter as well, which is kind of a cool thing. And I'm wondering how much that might affect it as well, is having that person that's outside of the game that helps you to maintain that stability inside of it.
Absolutely. So this was just a brilliant display by them. I think this pretty much guarantees that Faceless will, in fact, be in the playoffs, and we'll just have to see who joins them.
All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, I'm going to hit the right button this time so that way we don't end up going to the main feed thing. But anyways, we will be back in just a little bit more Southeast Asian Dota to continue. We are here for roughly the next 12 hours, I think. So should be a great day of Dota. And then, of course, continuing on the 24-hour coverage. EU coming in soon. We'll be back in a little bit. Lyrical as well as Blaze, your 2 commentators. See you guys.